Okay, so we're writing 11/3 as a mixed number. Well, 3 goes into 11 3 times with 2 left over, and that 2 left over is 2/3. So 11/3 as a mixed number is 3 2/3. You can check this on your calculator by using the conversion key, which looks like this. And if you press Shift before you press that key, it'll turn your answer into a mixed number. So that's a good way to check. Even on the questions that say don't use your calculator, you can still use your calculator to check certain parts of the calculation. So let's move on to the next question. I'm doing 3 1/3 divided by 2 1/2. Now remember, we never want to calculate with mixed numbers. We always want to calculate with fractions. So I'm going to convert my 3 1/3 into a fraction. Now 3 1/3 is 10/3. There's a number of different ways to work this out. One favourite method is to times these numbers together. 3 times 3 is 9. And then add on the 1 to make 10, and that makes the 10, and obviously it's still going to be over 3. If I do the same trick over here, 2 times 2 is 4, add 1 is 5. That makes 5 over 2, and I'm dividing those two fractions. Now, to divide a fraction, we skip, change, flip. I skip over 10/3, I change the divide to a multiply, and I flip the 5 over 2 into a 2 over 5. To multiply these fractions together, I times the tops, which makes 20, times the bottoms, that makes 15. Now I want it in its simplest form. If I type 20 over 15 into my calculator, it will simplify it for me into 4/3. So there's my answer. Next question. I've just got to do 5/6 minus 1/2. We can't take away two fractions if the denominators are different, because we can't subtract two things with a different type. So what I'm going to do is change my half into sixths. 1/2, that's the same as 3/6 if I times top and bottom by 3. So I'm actually doing 5/6 minus 3/6, and that makes 2/6, which simplifies down to 1/3. And again, even though it says don't use a calculator, I can use my calculator to help me with that simplifying step at the end. So here's another question. Now this sort of question is very, very common on a calculator paper. They're not just asking me to do 4 1/6 times 1 4/5. They're telling me what the answer is to force me to show my working out. They know you have a calculator. So, again, I do not want to calculate with mixed numbers. I'm going to turn my 4 1/6 into a fraction. We use the same trick we used before. 6 times 4 is 24, and add the 1 to make 25. This is 25 over 6. I'm going to do the same trick with the other mixed number. 5 times 1 is 5, add 4 is 9, 9 over 5. To times these together, we multiply the tops, and we multiply the bottoms. So, 25 times 9 is 225, and 6 times 5 is 30. If you then type 225 over 30 into your calculator, it will simplify it for you and give you an answer of 15 over 2. Now 15 over 2, that's equal to 7 1/2. Again, even though it says don't use your calculator, it's fine to get your calculator to help you with these final couple of steps. And as I explained before, if I press Shift and then the conversion key, that will actually show you that 15 over 2 simplifies to 7 1/2. If you're worried and you want to show an extra step here, then you can say 15 over 2 equals, for instance, 7.5, and then you can write that as 7 1/2, but really this is absolutely fine. In the next question, we're asked to work out 11/12 minus 3/4 minus 2/3 in brackets. So we have to remember our order of operations. We have to remember BODMAS. I'm going to do what's in the brackets first. Now 3/4 and 2/3 can't be subtracted because they have different denominators. I need to scale them up to 12ths. So 3/4 to go up to 12ths, I would need to times this all by 3. So I'm going to take my 3/4 and I'm going to times everything by 3 to make 9/12. I'm going to take my 2/3 and times that all by 4 top and bottom to make 8/12, and that's what we're subtracting. That's going to make 1/12. So now that I've done the bit in brackets, I can do the rest. I've got to do now 11/12 minus the result of that subtraction, which is 1/12. That of course makes 10/12, which simplifies to 5/6, and that's my final answer. Now we have a question involving a mixed number and a fraction. This is fine because the rule is don't calculate with mixed numbers. If I use my usual conversion trick, multiply these two together, 3 times 1 is 3, and then add that 2, that's going to make 5/3. So there's 5/3 minus 11/15. So I'm looking for a number that goes that 3 goes into and 15 goes into. And of course the best choice here is 15. If you see something else, for instance, you might see 45 or 30 or something like that, you can use whatever you see. 5/3 I'm going to write by timesing top and bottom by 5 as 25/15. That means I can leave the 11/15 alone and I have my common denominator. 25/15 minus 11/15 is of course 14/15. And that one doesn't get any simpler, so I'm done. 1/4 plus 5/12. Now in this one, of course, it'll be very nice to turn the quarters into twelfths just by timesing top and bottom by 3. But I just want to highlight another strategy that always works, which is to multiply the quarters by 12 and the twelfths by 4. So if you choose to do it this way, again you can get your calculator to help you. I'm going to take my quarter and multiply that by 12, getting me 12/48. I've got my 5/12, and I'm going to multiply that all by 4. That's going to give me 20/48. Now when I add those together, I've got 32/48, like this. If I take that into my calculator, I can find out that simplifies all the way down to 2/3. This is not the best way of doing it, but because you've got a calculator to help you with the big numbers, it's no harder to do this than it is to do something like turn everything into twelfths. So if you prefer to use the same strategy every time, this is a good one. Quarters times by this denominator, twelfths times by this denominator, you'll get your common denominator and off you go. Final question. 3 1/7 minus 1 1/4. I don't want to calculate with the mixed numbers, so I'm going to do 7 times 3 and add 1 to get 22/7. 4 times 1, add 1 to get 5/4. I cannot subtract these fractions because they have different denominators. The first nice number that both 7 and 4 go into is 28. So I've got to take my 22/7, multiply everything by 4. That's going to get me 88/28. Take my 5/4 and multiply by 7. That's going to give me 35/28. If I take these away, I'm getting 53/28. And that's as simple as that one gets. It does say to give my answer as a mixed number. So 28 out of 28 would be 1. So that 1 over there is 28/28. And I have left over, after I've done that, I've got to figure out how I'd get to 53. So I'd be adding 25. So I've got an extra 25/28 left over. And the 28 I have over here and the 25 I have over here adds up to the 53 that I have over there. So that's the mixed number. Once again, Shift and then the conversion key will do that for you if you want. And that is the fractions, decimals, and mixed number solutions.